Ok, felice tardi per vostro tour che sintonizzando il webinar di AWE, di parte di Circular Economy, di EU Funds, su di 5 anniversario, lo sta celebrando. Anto mi super orgoglioso, super contento, super onorado. Un vez más, un vez más, sin otro, yo digo, que está destacando, que está donando todo su conocimiento, talento y su esfuerzo para pensa di maniera innovativa con nos por con nos por así no solamente na cosa sino na mundo pensa di che maniera nos por trata con nos economia con circularidad y durabilidad y hobby más pero mita laga Boso será conocido mesora que nos invitaron Chave, Juan Carlos Goilo, com hopi, welcome, um bom menino de coração, me da hopi contente com botei, anto me da espera que generam que agora que te sigue nós, também tu vai desfrutar, me tenho seguro, tu vai desfrutar de dissertação fantástico, conhecebo, you're gonna blow us all away, just take the floor.
Und danke para a invitação e a oportunidade. Anto contente miravo também, Noraya. Me atrai a apresentação em inglês, anto gispa me tá seguro que me tá comunicar com o turende, me tá de switch para inglês durante a apresentação, ou me nossa se esse tá,
Era okay.
That's okay.
Como eu não me Curaçao, nós me querem nós tá como tem diferente idioma, dus agora usa é um que vai para.
Okay, fácil. Bom, dus met een presentation, I made a presentation called this, Empowering the Diaspora for Circular Economy, Unlocking Potential Through Knowledge Transfer. So why did I do that? I was asked to give a speech or give a talk about the diaspora or diasporic economics via the angle of knowledge transfer. And it kind of aligns with my background because, well, I'm an anthropologist of innovation, information, and technology. I also do design research or artistic research, depending on how you want to call it. So very first early stage research prior to things becoming accepted by society at large. And I also work as a government policy advisor for the city of Amsterdam in the innovation department for over, I think, what is it, like 5-6 years, in which we develop concepts and also export concepts that are successful. And well, throughout this presentation, you'll hear a few concepts that have come with my involvement also into realization on the island. But just to give you a brief kind of like evolution of humanity, just so take a step back, have a broad perspective, just to look at innovation in a broader sense. So there have been multiple technical inventions throughout millennia, and the oldest being, of course, our ability to manage fire and our ability to develop tools. Already the chimpanzees could develop tools to pick out the mice, to pick out the ants from the tree to eat them. But fire gave us an extra edge and also made us possible to develop more complex tools. But after that also, we started domesticating ourselves with agriculture and also not being nomads anymore, just working on one place and living for a long period of time in one place, which pretty much also brought into existence this idea of the existence of urban areas or cities or larger groups of people together working on something we call nowadays the economy. Much later into the future, around the 18th century, we discovered another brilliant invention, which is like steam power and water power, which gave us the ability to increase production. So it made possible that we could suddenly create a lot en masse. And after that came also, of course, electricity in the 19th century. It also in the 20th century, computers, the internet, the automation of many things, and in the era that we're nowadays in which everything has become part of the internet. And now we even have the AI helping us, assisting us in many things, and also technology becoming very small parts of our existence, not only existing as big chunks of computers or mainframes or trains or steam engines, but very small particles in our body. So we've come a long way as humans. And these improvements all brought a certain perspective towards nature, a certain perspective towards our ability to be effective as human beings in society. So first we were surviving, protecting ourselves from the mammoths, the animals in the wild in the at the early stages of the Holocene. But at a certain point in time, we started to dominate nature. So when we started dealing with agriculture and creating monocultural agriculture, which is the linear form that we still predominantly use in the world, we started to have this idea of controlling nature and the ability to dominate it and to develop our own will by it. And on top of that came production power and production speed, which were all these physical elements to the way we organized our society. But what is interesting since the 20th century, halfway to the 20th century, with the coming of the internet and computers, is that the way the abilities are developing have become more cognitive, more mental, more emotional, more reflective. So these are other capacities that are now becoming more prevalent to the evolution of us as humanities all over the world. So this is just very important to understand when you look at how the economy is evolving through time and what position will we be taking throughout time, and how knowledge then becomes an important part of the evolution of Curaçao, because we're on this speed train throughout time. And if we want to jump on that bandwagon, we kind of have to know how to align with how the whole planet is evolving as an organism. So what are the skills that we might need from this time, right? So there's a big system change going on. We're going from closed systems to open systems. Instead of planning everything ahead of time, we design along the way. We go from assessing each other, so judging through information being constantly feeding to us. So we have to be adaptive and open for that. From physical, again, to more a digital existence. From a linear way of organizing, like I just said, monocultural, for example, agriculture, to a syntropic or agroforestry, which is a far more circular form of organizing food production. From ownership to accessibility, which is a very political discussion nowadays about who owns what and who is being owned by whom. But if nothing is owned by anyone, it changes the paradigm altogether. So how would you look into a system that is fully about accessibility instead of ownership in general? How would you imagine such a society? And also, how would you imagine a society in which a government is no longer the top-down imagination you have of it, but becomes a community that is part of everything around you? So it moves away from this whole idea that we've evolved throughout time, that we are the center point of our universe. We are the sun in our solar system, and being part of a larger galaxy, a larger cluster, a larger constellation of elements in which we live, right? So this is a fundamental shift in the way we are changing the way we look at society and the way we look at economic development, societal development. And this change comes also with strategy. So it's not something that is done in a day, but it's something that is slowly changing through time. And there are strategies in which you can kind of like mold the shift in a certain way that you would want this outcome to pan out. And it usually starts with both from the top down and the bottom up. So from the top down, you'll have, as you can see in this graph, a narrative landscape. So people start telling all these stories about how society is organized and that it's been done different, and that a change is needed or urgent for some reason or form. And that starts to become prevalent, and people start to question the structures that they have built for organizing their daily life, or developing their skills, for what they consider their culture. And at the same time, people also start to experiment with very specific things. So that then relates to the niche innovations that are happening from the bottom up. And when these two meet together, they start to transform the regime that society is in. When we're talking about knowledge transfer, and when we're talking about this cross-border relationship with our diaspora, it is very much about connecting these elements of both niche innovation, making it possible on an island that is surrounded by the sea, and scale is quite small, with larger frameworks that are and narratives that are going on all over the world. So yeah, skills that are prevalent. Is this, again, this very critical assessment of where you stand. It is a form of openness to collaboration. It is about, oh, I'm sorry about that. It is about being able to bring various elements of your thought and somebody else or other people all around the world to create something, to manifest something in local context, make it specific. So yeah, the question is, are you a learner or are you curious? And if your answer to that question is yes, good on you. If your answer to that is not enough, then you should ask yourself why. If your answer to that is no, then I'm gonna say I'm sorry, but this century is going to be very hard for you because things are changing quite rapidly. So what is this thing that I'm talking about, right? So I'm bringing two types of views on the economy, the diaspora and the circular, together. So what is that? What kind of economy are we then aiming for? So to just briefly explain, you probably heard this multiple times throughout this week. But diasporic economics is this idea that people who have migrated from their country of birth and developed themselves abroad engage with their country of birth, and in multiple ways. So remittances by sending money, investments by organizing finance schemes, entrepreneurship by helping businesses start up, philanthropy just by putting money into specific projects in the community. And what I'm mostly focused on is knowledge transfer. So this idea that we should facilitate knowledge and expertise to contribute to human capital, to really help the way people think and organize social life, cultural life on the ground. And to make this a to and fro. So not only developing here, but creating cross-pollination with the diaspora. So then it becomes also an inspiration for the diaspora living abroad. And circular economics, though oftentimes people think it's about resource efficiency and the cascading energy effects related to resource efficiency. So pretty much no waste economy. More and more, you start to see that people reason the circular economy far more broadly than just material and energy. It is also about ideas. It is about how we organize social life and how we deal with ideas in a regenerative way. And I like this framework, which I'm showing on the right of your screen, which is developed by Common Land, and they have this impact of 4 returns. So inspiration is also a return. And how do you organize inspiration? By planting seeds of hope, because we're living in quite desperate times. And hope is at times needed. And it also is a fuel for people to stay in an open mind towards development. You also have social return, which is about bringing people into social connection in such a way that the network effects make people thrive. We have natural return, which is, of course, helping our natural resources regenerate themselves, and financial return, which is more about creating financial incentives in a way that society is better off. So if you combine these two elements together, the circular and the diaspora economics, I argue that the kind of economics that we're developing is regenerative, inclusive, and distributive. And here are a few authors that you can read and just have, when you have the time to go through. I'm not going to go over them, but one of them that I've been working closely with is Kate Rayworth. Some of you may know or may not know that I've been involved with the development of a circular economy both in Amsterdam as in Curaçao, and the model that I've implemented in both contexts has been donut economics, and finding ways in which I can apply both all its principles to society. And these aspects of regenerativeness and inclusiveness and distributiveness are part of it. But there are more people working on this in the economy. So some local examples, of course, might be known to people, but Colectivo, with their social impact grants. You have Farmed Crafts, which is a project that is now on the island, focused on closing the loop of farm waste by creating other products that come out of farm waste. Think of clothing, think of interior decoration, think of isolation for homes, et cetera, et cetera. The Curaçao donut economy, I just kind of gave a snippet to it. Xing Objeto, which is about a bottom-up a storytelling of our history. So instead of using the institutions to tell the story of our history, our collective history, can also be told through our collective memory of it, which broadens our perspective to what materials have contributed to the development of Curaçao. Green Phoenix, which is reusing plastics. We have Ocean X, which is based in Holland and also does experiments on Curaçao, which is a social innovation foundation, but at the same time also working quite closely with technological development. They aim to develop a windmill to create both reverse osmosis and produce energy. So cleaning up water for drinking and for agriculture, but also creating energy. We have Club 17, which is all about a knowledge transfer and bringing people together. We have 2030 Hub, which does deep dives and brings different stakeholders in the transition to meet our sustainable development goals. And we have Engrain, which is a digital agency based in Amsterdam, which works very closely with a lot of projects on the ground on Curaçao. So here are just a few of the many examples that exist on the island. It's definitely not all of them. Throughout the week, you've probably heard of more. And here's a project that I've been working on also. I've been developing together with the government of Curaçao and some financial partners this thing called the ESG Innovation Collective, which aims towards the operationalization of ESG on the island. Well, I kind of have to tell you what ESG is, otherwise this is a Chinese. ESG is this a framework that has been developed by the World Economic Forum, which stands for Environmental Social Governance Framework. It is a framework to help companies become more sustainable, and governments all over the world are embracing this also to be able to communicate with companies and to cross-pollinate their ambitions towards sustainability. So also cities are adopting this framework of the ESG, and Amsterdam is one of the cities. And like I told you before, I work for the city of Amsterdam, and we are also collaborating with Curaçao to see if we can engage in the development of an ESG framework for Curaçao, focusing specifically on, again, this idea of knowledge transfer and capacity building. So we're working on the S of the ESG, so the environmental social governance framework. We're working on the social because in the social hides the culture. And we believe from the ESG Innovation collective that the culture drives change. And you might ask, okay, so but why is this important? Because, well, as we develop this knowledge together, at a certain point, we'll be able to develop also ESG rewarding criteria and certifications that financial institutions on the island can use to access capital abroad for social and cultural projects. So that will amplify also the possibility of islands such as Curaçao that might have financial limitations to gain more capacity on that front as well. So just to kind of summarize what works, and then I'm going to wrap up. So encourage active participation in thought processes. I mean, these are all very basic stuff, but it is very needed for knowledge transfer, especially on an island that is quite small and isolated to some extent to the global financial and knowledge streams. It is very important to encourage this active participation in thinking and using our cognitive capacities. It is about feeding open network ties, so make use of open networks also to break away from fragmentation on Curaçao. So Curaçao, also because of its its colonial heritage, it has a lot of elements of social economic fragmentation, stratification that can be worked on through knowledge transfer. And another one is nurture the potential for change through activities that allow people to slow down and reflect. So it's all about slowing down instead of speeding up. We've been speeding up, as I've shown you, through the evolution of humanity a lot, but right now in the age of interconnectedness and purpose finding and curiosity and all these 21st century skills, we kind of have to also slow down to figure out how and what our position is in the context that we're existing. And also be open for non-tangible progress. So it's not about the things that you can touch or see, but it's also about the things that are not yet there. So it's not only about knowledge transfer to that extent, because Curaçao has a lot to discover. There are a lot of local gems. Curaçao is known for its extremely creative minds and diverse view of the world. So it is a great capital that can be used for economic development on the island. And so, yeah, research, data, information, knowledge, research, data, information, knowledge. It doesn't stop. So this curiosity will not stop, especially as we are becoming a world in which information is so present and almost overtowering you and overwhelming you. You have to be open for this kind of like research driven mindset towards the world, this basic form of curiosity to understand the world. And just to give a small last example, organize structures for cooperation with the diaspora worldwide, create knowledge platforms, connect with the diaspora, with local projects, people and initiatives. The Diaspora Institute in Suriname is already doing this. I'm also trying to do this. I have a think tank every 6 weeks. Maybe you've seen me via LinkedIn to share knowledge and to hopefully connect people on the ground here with people somewhere else doing interesting things. So yeah, where do you stand? Because in 2045, as I read last week, Curaçao kind of is aiming towards a fossil fuel-free island, which is huge. This is quite big news. So start thinking about how this change is going to affect you on the ground. What can you do and how can you contribute? How can you facilitate such a progress to take place? And how do you want this road to be? Is it going to be a straight line for you, or is it going to be a learning curve? Or as you can see in the graph below, is it going to be a learning entanglement with you and everything around you? Thank you very much for listening.
Awesome. We're very, yeah, you're getting applause, Juan Carlos. I didn't expect anything differently. I know you've been very busy as one of our members of the diaspora for a long time already. You've been very active, which I'm very happy to see that are actually, since we have the internet, it's easier for everyone to become involved or to stay involved. And seeing that we're celebrating 5 years of the EU desk in Curaçao, where we are able to make use of the funds that the European Union is making available for us to actually go into the knowledge sharing, use or to make good use of the fact that people have our brains are scattered all around the world, and but not just scattered, where our brains are working all around the world. So and getting all these ideas, these working out these concepts, making an impact abroad, but and also then now in Curacao. One of the projects that I've been following is the donut economy. So the circular, you guys have a WhatsApp group where you share a lot of information, you keep each other informed of opportunities there are. I would like to zoom in a little bit more on that particular topic before we go on to a few more of those. And I also invite people to actually, if they have questions, please share them in the chat. And if you have questions that you want him to answer after the event, that's also possible, I'm sure. So if you can share your contact with the people, that's also going to be good. But let's start by zooming in on the circular economy and the donut concept that you're very active in.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So yeah, what can I tell you about donut economics? It's this donut model is based on this shape of the donut, right? And the shape of the donut has, if you can imagine it, close your eyes and see in front of you an inner circle and an outer circle. The inner circle focuses on various indicators for social development, social economic development, and the outer circle focuses on the ecological development. She uses, Kate Rayworth, who developed this concept of donut economy, uses different terms for these limits. So the inner circle of the donut she calls the social foundation. Breaching the social foundation, you'll fall in the pit in the middle of the donut, and people will will be socio-economically deprived. Whereas if you breach the ecological ceiling, so which is the outer limit of the donut, the people can feel, or the planet will feel deprived. We'll start to notice that the planet starts to deregulate and also get exacerbated in certain aspects. So this is the basic idea that she's proposing, is to change our worldview of the economy instead of an economy that is endlessly growing, and to change that goal into a goal that aims to meet the needs of all people within the means of a living planet. That's a quote straight from our book. So aim to meet the needs of all people within the means of a living planet is something very profound. It may sound simple and short and crisp, but if you think about it, it means that all the elements of the economy are interconnected, and there are no externalizations to the economy. So if you have homeless people, is not an externalization of your economy. It is your economy.
It's part.
It is
the result.
Yeah,
it's a construct of your economy.
Yeah, it's the way you've organized it. The same goes for biodiversity laws. The death of the corals on the coast of Curaçao, for example, is the way we've decided to organized our economy, we can also organize it differently. There are multiple attempts at doing so on the island also. So it's very much the way in which we organize and look at our economy that makes that our economy evolves in a certain way. And once we gain that flexibility of thinking, which she proposes through the donut model, not only through the shape of the donut, but through other 7 principles, then you can start to design and also think about your participation in the change of the economy. You can maybe choose one of the 7 principles that she proposes to also work on and develop concepts or a business for the economy, to develop a proposal for a European grant, because the donut model is also quite prevalent in Europe at the moment. So you can also use this a vehicle to kind of like brand your narrative. She also developed now a framework for businesses. So if you want to develop a donut, quote unquote, donut proof business, you can find a document on her website that helps you do so. Yeah, so there's a lot out there that you can use to kind of like change the way you organize your economy. That's the donut model, at least from the perspective that I've been working on it.
One of the things that I truly appreciate is that with seeing all of you working and sort of not just at work, but actually thinking about certain processes, rethinking certain paradigms, and changing the way that, or asking yourselves, why do we have to look at why is something the way it is, and is it possible to change it? That mentality is something that is very much needed when you're, or actually it's the realization that you're able to change whatever has been handed to you or whatever you've been born in. I think that's crucial, and I'm very happy to see the number of people from Curaçao who are actually in that state of mind. And I think COVID was a period where I actually saw a lot of youth Curaçaos in the diaspora and also on the island connect with each other and seeing how to actually rethink certain processes. And since Curaçao is a fairly young nation, I think we have an advantage as to that the things haven't been like this for like centuries and centuries and centuries. So so it's good that now you have a big community that is connecting to bring about change or to rethink certain models, right?
Very much, very much, very much. So I do think there's a strong potential in doing so. There are a lot of people that approach me just to have an open conversation, living in the Netherlands, to see how they can help and how they can contribute without even knowing exactly what they could do. And they slowly but surely start to find their way back home. So it's kind of also, if you're focusing on the knowledge transferring aspect, is also to tap into all these people, and maybe if you have them in your network, approach them. I mean, just ask them for help, ask them for collaboration if they have certain expertise, and build something together. Usually, especially when dealing with European funds, if you want a higher rate of approval, having a good strategy for a fund application is very important. And usually that ties in with having bigger countries as part of your call, because simply they represent more people in Europe, having high-level organizations, very prominent organizations in your consortium when you're doing a call. So all these things are needed, and they are possible to tap into when you use your network abroad. Yeah.
And so there's so many things I want to talk to you about, but okay, let me first, before I go on, could you tell us about your PhD process that you're in? Because
okay, that's
yes,
like a
briefly. So because I'm very proud of you for that too. So maybe we can share Just share the brief, the overall concept, and what are you contributing to?
Yeah, so
yes, you're getting applause, by the way. Applause for your
thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah. So that's it's. How can I explain my research? So my research is I'm rethinking the role of information. So the way we've been viewing information has been quite mechanic. So information as something that comes out of a computer, something that is a slave to us, instead of viewing information as something that is interacting with us. So this is kind of like on the conceptual level what I've been working on, and the model of the donut has been how I've approached this new theory of information that I'm developing. Actually, everybody who participated in this whole donut process has been part of my grand experimentation about how information works and how people relate to information, how people process and create and go from processing to action, so act also on the information. Yeah, so I'm finished, so it's been approved, and by the end of January, I'll be defending, and yeah, so then they call you doctor or something like that. But
yes, I'm calling you doctor already. Yes, I know for sure that no, actually, I would love for you to once you've gotten your title and you feel that you're entitled to carrying your title, because we are already using it for you, pre-doc. That you, I hope you share. I know you're going to do it, but I hope you actually share it on all levels, because I think the sooner we can get the younger generations as well involved, we can start molding the generation, the community, as to resemble what it is that we see that is that the future is, that we are taking the future into, and the future is taking us into, right? And how
very much so. I'll bring back from the defense about 100 copies, and if that runs out, then we can always print more. But yeah, no, my idea is to definitely share. As you can see throughout my presentation, it's very important to share information. I take that quite seriously. So I will have copies. I'll bring copies to all the high schools, and I'll also share them with the university and universities, I should say, and give a presentation about it. Yeah, definitely working on that. First things first, let me just defend myself, and then I'll do that.
Yeah, defend yourself.
By the way, that I've been nominated by the national government, so thank you for that, for the Juan Bosch Prize. So I'm very honored to be nominated for the Juan Bosch Prize for my PhD. Yeah, we'll see how far that goes. Yeah, we'll see how far that goes.
I'm cheering. If everybody's cheering for you. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So
I see a hand, by the way. There's a hand.
Okay, let's go for it.
Oh, yeah. I saw Sharon. Hey, Sharon. Vanda. Can he just speak? I don't know how that goes. Or maybe he can write his question too. I just see his hand.
I'm gonna ask Samara and Shivani to help me out with that, because I am in a limited, or not limited, I am in a very nice, I have a very nice setup when it comes to the technology that is being facilitated by myself. But I would need some assistance with the questions. And then
yes, so if you have any, I just see that Shannon doesn't have any questions.
Okay, perfect.
She was applauding proudly. Yes. Okay, so Juan Carlos, when it comes to the not just the knowledge sharing, the knowledge sharing, throughout so this whole week we've had a few of your colleagues from certain projects, like David van Delden from Engrave and Engrain, and I know I'm in contact with a few of your other projects. I see that the collaboration it plays a big role, and not just in collaboration in the easier or like topics that come to mind the easiest, but you guys pick a few topics that are niche projects that are very valuable. Can you tell us about the choices that you guys make when it comes to these types of collaborations?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Well, David, I've worked on specifically on a movie. It's called Lamang, and we had a sneak preview, and by next year we will premiere it more broadly. Yeah, so
you guys are
Yeah.
internationally getting
yeah,
a lot of recognition for the things that you guys are doing. So it's not just
Yeah.
something that you're doing for the island.
No.
It's
No.
not locally. It's not just for the locals.
No, definitely the angle that we're thinking in is not necessarily only local. So because if we're building bridges of knowledge, then our bridges of knowledge needs to be bridges. They need to create access to other forms of knowledge and through practices that provide knowledge on the ground on Curaçao. So making a movie and the process of making that and showing it on bigger stages gives us the opportunity to connect to gain connection with certain networks. And if people have questions and would like to do something similar, then we've paved that way already, and then they can maybe move faster than we have. So that is pretty much the groundwork. So building that bridge to make it easier for people to cross it, and that's making a movie. I'm also applying for a Creative Europe grant, which is also on developing artists of Curaçao by bringing them in connection with artists abroad in Europe. And so these are ways in which we try to expand the horizon of the island and creating that cross-pollination for the island with other places in the world. Yeah.
And how do you guys meet? Because I know, for instance, I mentioned the WhatsApp where you meet more people than the ones that you've already been working with, but the original crew, when did you guys meet? Did you guys know each other in Curaçao? Did you guys meet in Holland? Did you meet online? How does that
different ways
work?
Yeah, that's a very incremental question. Yeah, so how do you meet a person for you and your collaborations that you would like to endeavor upon? It's sometimes it's spontaneous, and other times it's organized. Like, for example, the Curaçao donut economy was kind of like a serendipitous moment. COVID came, lockdown. I had the opportunity to come to Curaçao for my case study on Curaçao. And meanwhile, at the same time, a person on Curaçao, Yuri Oldhaten, started to call out to society that we should take on the example of Amsterdam of developing a vision for a post-COVID society. And I picked that up because I thought, okay, great. He saw that. I didn't know him before. Let me just meet him. Let me just reach out and say, hey, can we work together? Because I think we're on the same page on this. And so we met up, and I was already in conversation with the government. And then I brought the government. The government brought me, Yuri, and some other people together, and we started the conversation from that point on. And yeah, it took us some conversations and alignment to get everything together, but that's how it usually works. You have to synchronize. I mean, where you come from is not where I come from. Your perception is not my perception, and bringing it together helps you and me to go forward and to create something together that is valuable. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I can make it more complex than that, but that's pretty much it. It starts with networking. Yeah.
Networking. And did you also network with some connections that you already had from school, from back when you were in high school, and that you continued working with on certain other projects, or is it all new connections that you made?
No, I have Let me think. So now it becomes quite specific for certain projects I did, and for other projects I didn't. Of course, I know you from high school. I know David from high school. I know many people from my generation from high school. But as soon as it's 4 years younger than me, or 5 years younger than me, or 4 or 5 years older than me, then I don't really know them. I don't really have a way of knowing them, except if I knew them via other people. So that is usually how it works. I think that's also kind of like the range of your network, a generational network that you have on Curaçao. And I think people should not underestimate their generational network to that extent, because it's, especially for a small island like Curaçao, it's quite powerful. And the connections you make in your younger years have quite a big impact. So yeah, make use of those.
The reason I'm asking that, especially specifically, is because of the concept of the diaspora, bringing the diaspora together. How can we actually keep nurturing the connections that we made, especially like as you said, when we were very, very young, up to now? How do you nurture that? How do you scale that? How do you, so in order for the power of the 148,000 in Curaçao now to actually truly be maybe even almost half a million. So because we are all over the world and still in contact with each other, working on productive projects and concepts, right?
No, I think it's very important to use that as a potential to increase the capacity of the economy. And I mean, so this is just early stage development, but at a certain point, you can also find ways to institutionalize it, right? So really find ways to capitalize on this diaspora, to create institutional frameworks in which there is proper financing for people to come to Curaçao as a part of the diasporic network, to do projects on the ground as part of the diaspora, and to, for example, I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud right now, but you could develop a system in which you're developing contracts with companies abroad, specific contracts that you give to people with a diaspora, and you provide incentives for those companies abroad to give that flexibility to one of their workers to help on the ground on the island, or to do a project on the island, or to execute something on the island. And I don't think much is needed to make that possible. It's just somebody has to do it.
And this is even maybe this could maybe even be an EU project, right? It could be something that can be worked on, because we have the whole diaspora concept in other countries also have that. So maybe it's something that that can be explored through the EU funds even.
I don't know which EU fund might support this, but there should be projects in which, I mean, in all European projects, there is knowledge dissemination and exploitation taking place. So if you make that part very diasporic, so that work package that is focusing on knowledge exploitation and dissemination, then focusing on the diaspora, then you can make sure that all of the knowledge that has been developed and acquired throughout a European project comes to especially the isolated places, or more isolated places in the project, usually the smaller participating nations or the smaller economies such as Curaçao. Yeah.
And what's your wish for this for Curaçao when it comes to the circular economy, up to, like you mentioned, 2045, based on information that was just provided. But what is your wish or vision? I don't know which one you would like to share when it comes to circular economy, when you look at Curaçao as a almost doctor. No, just as a Curaçao.
Well, what I wish for the most is that we start thinking ecologically based on the ecosystem that we have on Curaçao. So make use of the resources that the ecology provides us. So I've used the concept of biomimicry more often, but for example, especially now with sea level rising and rain becoming more extreme and the weather sometimes, start to think like, yeah, the heat stress, and especially on the roads. Start to think also more ecologically in the way you organize your streets, the way people transport themselves. What do you do with trees? But also, how do you build a road? Can we rethink the way roads are built instead of using very well, strong material, but how can you use that strong material? Maybe there is a different material that we can use. I don't make roads, so I don't know, but that operates as a mangrove. Maybe we can make mangrove roads instead of especially on the southern coastline, instead of roads made out of cement and what do you call it? Asphalt. Yeah, so so biomimicry would be kind of like my biggest wish, to start thinking and being as generous as nature is to us, back to nature and each other.
Yeah, I remember one thing you told me this year, I think, was that when did we start thinking that when did we start believing that sweating is bad? So like taking a walk and sweating is bad. And I know that my physiology doesn't take it, but I mean it's true. Like even the concept of how do you relate to what is good or bad when it comes to how you relate to nature and regular things that you're supposed to be doing. That stuck with me because I know that I get sick, but I know also that there are certain things that are being brought on through culture. As you said, culture drives change. So maybe change can come by looking back at culture and then rethinking certain cultural patterns that we've been adopting, and looking for ways to actually. Me and my colleagues, we went to look at a place where they actually cool the environment with external but like natural, some kind of technological way that they find a natural way to cool very, very hot outside temperatures. And so maybe we can get to that and not hurt nature, but work with nature and have and also see how we get to actually, indeed, as you said, rethink how we approach the infrastructure and how we organize ourselves.
So culture is part of that genetic organization of life, right? So it is the way we think that makes us either limit ourselves or create new ways, new pathways of organizing life. Yeah, definitely. I can't agree more.
Yeah, no, of course it was your idea. No, okay. No, but okay, Juan Carlos, what projects do you think that, based on the ones that you're working on right now, which projects do you think are just about ready for younger generations to adopt as of like right now? And then we go on to the so like you have different projects and different things and all have a different point of view or something that they're targeting. Which ones do you feel are the ones that we can and then let me talk about let me focus on the high schoolers. So if you think of high schoolers, which ones are something that these high schoolers can interact with and maybe work on and implement further?
I don't know what kind of high schoolers there are nowadays and how they're thinking. But I mean, at least because of all the technical possibilities out there, I really do think that there's a lot possible with 3D printing, for example, or looking at the organic growth of certain materials. like for example, now that I'm finishing my PhD, I'm very curious about how certain materials grow organically, such as the fungi and which fungi grow on Curaçao, and how sturdy is that material when they expand, and what do they need to cultivate. Yeah, so I do think so, getting very nerdy, but I do think like getting into the kind of like technical possibilities that are out there nowadays to really figure out something specific and unique might be a wonderful way to begin, and to begin experimenting. And it could be just an artistic project that maybe not lead to some grandiose outcome, but it could lead to you getting further into how you want to contribute to Curaçao's ecosystem. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect lead right now, and Juan Carlos, we're gonna see how we can make that work. And I know that there are a few projects that I know of, especially in the Netherlands, when it comes to the fungi, that they exposed at the Expo 2020. They used a whole sustainable or a circular way of building their whole, setting up their whole pavilion. So I think that is something that we truly can connect to the youngsters as well. So please keep us informed of keep us, or continue keeping us informed of all your endeavors. We're wishing you the best of luck for January. No pressure, but pressure, just cheering you on. And also, I know everybody watching is very proud of you and is very excited for you, and excited for Curaçao as well. Thank you for being such a beacon of hope, and of being such a good role model for Curaçao abroad and in Curaçao. Thanks for introducing the circular economy in this webinar. And brasa masha fuerte mes for you and your family. And you get to say bye to the people as well, because they're cheering you on here.
Yeah, no, thank you for all the cheers. Thank you for all the compliments also, Noraya. Thank you for being here, and also giving the opportunity for this talk. It's been a very nice talk, and I hope people have a look at it, because it's been recorded, so they have maybe the chance to see it when they have the time. Yeah, so just like I try to tell the people what I'm doing, let me know what you're doing. And, that's where the magic happens. If you start sharing, then something can come out of that. So I'm going to leave that to that.
Awesome.
See you soon.
See you soon. Thanks
right.
to everyone. Masha tanki. The siguiente webinar. Bye-bye,
Yes.
Carlos.
Bye-bye.